Welcome to Transformative Principal. I am Jethro Jones, your host, and I am excited to invite you to participate in the Transformative Leadership Summit happening August 1st through 14th. We are going to have a great list of amazing guests who will be presenting: Jerry Pascal, John Wenstrom, Bill Ziegler, Chris Weger, Justin Bader, Will Parker, and a host of other amazing principals and leaders to help you be the best principal you can be. Go to transformativeleadershipsummit.com to sign up. Welcome to the Transformative Principal. Today, I get the mic turned around on me, and in my mastermind, the members of the mastermind wanted to hear what my insights and takeaways were from the Transformative Leadership Summit, which today, when this releases, August 14th, is the last day. However, the all access pass will still be available to anybody who's interested in getting that. So you can go back and listen to everything that you have learned from the summit and be able to find a way to implement some of those things. So that's at transformativeleadershipsummit.com. And this is a recording of my mastermind. And this is typically when we, each week get together and talk about how we can improve our schools and have authentic and deep conversations like we do in this upcoming episode. So we meet for an hour each week, and that's the gold level of the mastermind. The silver level of the mastermind is a once a month meeting, as once a week might be too much for some people. It's been awesome for us. Anyway, if you're interested in that, you can go to transformativeprincipal.org/mastermind and set up a call with me to talk a little bit more about that. You can hear them talk about how good the mastermind has been for them. So thanks for listening, and thanks for participating in the Transformative Leadership Summit. If you did, and if you didn't, it's not too late. Jump over there and learn from some awesome people.
I didn't want to sound like one.
We're now being recorded. I heard it. Kimberly.
It just popped on.
Okay. Play nice, Kevin.
That's right.
Where's Margaret? Right. Where's Margaret?
I think she's stuck in a training today. So she
heard that Jethro was going to record this, and she was like, I'm not showing up.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's the question. Tell us more about the summit and some of the highlights for you, both professionally and personally.
Okay.
Wait, that was a pretty good question, huh?
That was a big question. So professionally and personally, did you have like something specific about the summit, or just like,
I was really in awe of the amount and types of presenters, and what was your selection process, and maybe I know you had key insights from many of the presenters, but what were some of the highlights for you in the work that you do?
Okay. So let's talk about the selection process first. And I want to start that by talking about my selection process for the Transformative Principal podcast, because I think that plays in. One of the things that I learned early on is that there are amazing principals all over the place that are doing really awesome things. And what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to only focus on the big names or the famous people or anything like that. And so for my podcast, my goal was to find normal everyday principals that were being transformative in their leadership and taking their schools to new heights, but weren't like getting all these other accolades. So the very first person that I interviewed for my podcast was Sandra Jolovich-Moats, who was a principal of D Elementary School in Ogden, which was the worst school in Utah, just a couple of years before she was there. And then she came and brought it into the top 10. And that kind of a turnaround is incredible and thrilling and exciting, because that's like changing kids' futures in a very real sense. And it's not just about the test scores, but the confidence that it brings, the collaboration that the teachers have, all those things that come in really make an impact on those kids. And so I wanted to find principals who were doing these awesome things. Now, since then, it's evolved a little bit, and I've really been looking for people who are doing transformative leadership practices no matter where they are. And so I've branched out to find people who are, doing different kinds of leadership things. Like, his name is escaping me now, but the one with the book clubs that you've listened to and got his book, Built to Lead. I can't remember his name now.
David Long?
David Long, thank you. Yes. So I branched out to someone like him. Then this year, I took part in a couple of summits in the spring, and I've really been wanting to do something more with the podcast to get more people involved, to make it a bigger thing. And in my DISC personality profile, it talks about how if I don't infuse some excitement into something, then I get kind of bored with it. And so I want to infuse some excitement into it and not see it as just a routine anymore. And so I thought the summit would be a good thing to do. I did not realize that it was going to be as much work as it was. And it took a long time to do everything, way more time than I thought it would, and way more money than I thought it would. And it was just a really big investment all across the board. And so most of my summer was spent contacting people, lining up interviews, having interviews fall through, getting all ready for them, and then having them not happen, and then rescheduling. And then, as you know, my father passed away this summer, and so that complicated things. And there was just a whole bunch that went into it that made it really, it just took a lot of time. Everything did. And so as far as my selection process, and that's not a complaint, by the way, just to be clear, this was incredibly fulfilling for me professionally and personally. To be able to do something and to create something powerful was really just awesome. So as far as the selection criteria, it really came down to who are the people that I can connect with, that I think are amazing, that I can learn from, that other people will want to learn from as well. And so I went through and found people that were really amazing, but maybe people don't know about them, and wanted to invite those people. I found people that were really amazing that a lot of people know about and wanted to attract them. And the first person that I approached about it, which is crazy now that I think about it, was Seth Godin. And Seth was incredibly gracious with his time. And I couldn't believe that I emailed him, and he actually emailed me back. And he said he had a couple of questions and to call him. And I was like, what? Who is this guy? How is he like so generous and kind? Because I'm sure he gets a million requests every day. So I called him, and he said that he wasn't interested in being part of the summit, but he was willing to be on the podcast. And well, he didn't even say he was willing to be on the podcast. He just said he was willing to do something else. And I said, okay, well, how about you be on my podcast? And then he agreed to do an interview for that. Now, what was really cool about that is that I had this great amount of trepidation, fear, and uneasiness to ask someone like him to be part of this. And one thing that I have learned over and over in this is when you're afraid of something, that's when you need to just go and do it. And so that is my first lesson. And there's another part to that I'm going to add in a little bit. But asking some of these people like Liz Wiseman, who is a best-selling author and who has worked with Apple and eBay and all these big, huge tech companies, why would she give me any time at all to talk to her, right? But she was willing to. Same thing with Ray McNulty. He was presenting at a conference and I was at a conference, and we were able to connect, and I asked him if he'd be interested, and he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And there I was, totally afraid to ask him because I was afraid of rejection, and he was totally on board. And it was awesome that he was willing to do that. So that's the same for like pretty much every single person that I interviewed, that I get nervous to ask people because I'm afraid people are going to say no. And then I ask them, and then people are so generous. I get surprised every time. You'd think I'd figure this out, but I haven't. So the second part is I've been afraid for a long time to charge people any money for doing anything. And so that just has been difficult for me. And it's scary to ask people to give you money. You need to provide a good value. I want people to definitely feel like they're getting their money's worth. And as I've talked to people, I have felt like they've gotten their money's worth, and I want them to get more than their money's worth. So they walk away feeling like that was a good investment and that was worth it. And I want to do that again. And so I really tried when I was doing the selection process to find people who were going to bring that kind of value, even if, or regardless of whether they were well known or not. And so I also wanted it to be accessible to everybody. So making sure that it was free for part of it, so that anybody who didn't have the financial means to buy the all access pass, they could still get great benefit from it. And so far, that's been really cool that has actually worked out. And it's been really humbling for me to learn from all of these awesome people. So really, I just wanted people who would help leaders improve their schools with the knowledge that they have. And I feel like every single person has brought an incredible amount of value and made it a completely worthwhile experience for everybody there. Any follow-up on that? Anything I didn't explain well enough?
I really appreciate what you said about the folks that participated. The two words that you used were generous and kind. And to me, I kept feeling that over and over again. They are educators at heart, and they have this desire to share what they know, and their kindness just radiated in all of their interviews. And I was just incredibly impressed with their generosity and humbleness.
Mm-hmm.
I am just trying to do the best that I can do, and this is what I know, and use it and as it applies to you. And they were just all very humble, and I just knowledge rich. And, I'm really excited, and I just listened to it in my car on the way to work. A little bit of inspiration before I hit the road.
Yeah. That was really my goal, was to provide that for people. And as you know, one of my strengths in the Strength Finder is connectedness. And so I can connect with people, and the winning others over, I think that those help me get people to say yes. And that to me is a gift that I should be sharing with people. And so I do believe that anybody can go start a podcast or do a summit or whatever. I believe that my strengths allow me to do that and just go out and get it done. And so I want to do that and share that with as many people as I can. And so, to me, that is what is fulfilling to me, is helping other people. And that's really what has happened for me over the last couple months as I've been preparing and planning this.
And I appreciate too what you said about it was something scary for you, something that was a challenge for you, but you proceeded to do it anyway. And so I admire that. I'm not sure I could do that yet. Yeah.
Well, we all do hard things, right? And some of us do hard things that we're good at, and some of us do hard things that we're not very good at. And, we all need to find our little place where we can do that. And, I know that you're doing awesome things, Kimberly, and I'm grateful for my association with you, because you're helping me learn a lot as well. And the things that you've pushed back on with me that have helped develop me and help me be better. I mean, that's inspiring to me. So I appreciate that.
I didn't know I did that.
I think that's one of the best parts of the mastermind. And all of the things that you're talking about, spreading that encouragement and just the great practices that are happening on campuses all over the place. I would have never met either one of you had it not been for the podcast and the mastermind. And I definitely am challenged every day, and always think about, great, what am I going to be able to bring back next Thursday?
Exactly. So, yes. Well, Kevin,
what did I do transformative this week?
That's right. Because you did something. And if you didn't, you better hurry up and do something.
Yeah, exactly. It's Wednesday. It's the first day of school. What am I going to do for tomorrow? So,
But that's a really good thing for me too, Kevin, because it makes me accountable. It's like, oh crap, it's Thursday. I need to remember what are my goals and what am I doing. So that's just been a real beneficial aspect of this for me, my accountability piece, because you get lost in so many things, right?
Yeah.
well, most definitely. So, and I will tell you, Jethro, I went through a similar experience this past week with the Be Afraid to Ask. I think I shared with you guys that I was looking for speakers for kind of a staff speaker series that would help bring forth some of the big topics that I want to talk about. And just on my drive one day, I remembered a chef at Williams Sonoma. I was buying pots and pans, and he was selling baked goods. And I was watching for a little while, and I realized there was something just a little off. So I went over to have a conversation with him, like any educator, we're a little curious as to what's going on, and learned that he was autistic and was trying to start up his own baking business. So on my way home, as I'm trying to think of who to invite, I thought of that young man, and I remembered the name of the bakery. It had been, Mom and I figured out it must have been about 3 years ago. Remembered the name of the bakery, and he had just struck me as such an interesting young guy. And asked him, I knew that he was not a fan of schools, but asked him if he would be willing to come and speak with our staff, and was shocked that, he came out, he brought a whole bunch of baked goods for our staff, which was great for staff training. But his message was just so inspiring and so incredible. I think our teachers were really struck. But I just called somebody from 3 years ago that I've had no contact with, just to come see if he would go and confront something that he's not a fan of, being teachers in school. And he was overjoyed, very willing.
That's great, Kevin.
That's so cool.
That is amazing.
Yeah, he just showed up, and the teachers, of course, just loved him, and good tears in the room. And I think one of the most powerful moments for all of us, one of my kindergarten teachers asked, "What was your favorite moment in school? Why don't you just share one experience with us that can help guide us and inspire us for this year?" And of course, being so honest, he just stood there for a second and he said, "I honestly can't remember a single moment that I enjoyed in school." And he's probably 30 now. In its simplicity, I think that was one of the most powerful moments of the entire moment, the entire morning, but also of the entire staff development.
I got goosebumps when you shared that story, Kevin.
Yeah, that is awesome.
It was a really inspiring moment, and Jethro, I will tell you that it was inspired by Transformative Principal. Just finding people. I'm inspired by the people that you have on your show, and I know that my teachers can get some of that value, and I know that those people, like you shared earlier, those people are everywhere, and it's just finding them and finding a way to get their story. And this was certainly an experience where everyone walked away with the best that we were looking for, which is kind of the old quote, be nice to your children because you never know who they'll become.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at a guy who's a very successful chef that was pushed aside and ignored in school because of his autism. And it takes all shapes and sizes, and he's certainly extremely successful now. And as teachers, hopefully we're all kicking ourselves a little bit going, oh man, I missed so many great opportunities. At least for that child, you say, hey, tell me one good moment in school. He should have had something, just one thing, and he just didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's too bad.
So none of our kids are going to walk out with that experience.
No.
But that you're mindful of that, and that it's a passion of yours. Just think how many kids are going to benefit from that. I always think, what's the impact of kids? And,
Right.
That's the work that we do, is what's the impact for our kids. So,
right.
Yeah.
So Jethro, I'm going to lead us back to your summit conversation, and tell us more about what other key insights that you learned through this process. I'm really interested in, there were so many wonderful presenters and thinking and tidbits to take away. What are some of the meaningful experiences that really resonated with you and your practice as a building principal?
So there obviously was a ton, right? And for me to pull out one thing is is asking a lot, right? However, I think that that's something that I need to do as someone who organized this and made it happen. So I think the first thing, and this has nothing to do with anybody that I talk to, though I think they would all agree, and that's why it's the first thing, is that sometimes we need to recognize our pride and realize that we can't do everything. And I thought when I started it that I was going to do this all on my own. And I was talking to Daniel Bauer on the phone about it and just running the idea past him. And he said, well, that sounds like something I'd be interested in helping out with. And the prideful side of me that always, takes over way too much, it said, no, you don't need any help. You don't need to share any of this with anybody. You just do it yourself. And I said, well, cool, thanks. I'm not sure how I would have you help yet, but I appreciate the offer. And within like 30 seconds, I was like, are you crazy? This guy is offering to help do something that is super difficult. Take advantage of it and get the help and quit being such a prideful jerk. So that's what I did. I told him, yeah, that'd be great. If you can do some interviews, that'd be good. And he's a really good writer. So he's done a lot of the writing of the emails that get sent out each day. And those two things have helped way more than I could have ever thought. And he's done a phenomenal job of supporting me and helping me do it. And he's been a great partner for making it happen. But there was a lot of other stuff that I couldn't do myself. So I hired people to design the graphics because I'm not good at that. I hired people to put all the videos together because I could do that, but I'm not very good at that. So that cool little intro where the butterfly flies in at the beginning of each of the videos, I just love that. I think that is so awesome. And this lady named Brianna did that as I hired her to make an intro, to make the outro, and then to put all the videos together and get them ready to upload. And so, being able to say I can't do this on my own and reaching out to others for help has been vital. And, this started way back in August of last year when I hired someone to start editing the podcast for me, realizing that I just didn't have the bandwidth to do that myself. And that's pretty scary too, because now doing everything just costs more money. And so that's, I'm the only breadwinner in my house and I've got 4 small kids and my wife stays at home. And, those are risks that I'm taking, but I do it because I know that I can't do it on my own. And I could do a lot of things on my own, but I would lose out on a lot of other important things. So the thing that I'm taking back to my school this year is the idea of shared leadership and having my teachers take more on as leadership things. So, and this isn't to put more on their plates. This is for them to own what is happening and own what they can do to change things. So, and I've already seen dividends pay from this in just a short time. When new teachers come to Kodiak, we meet them at the ferry or at the airport, depending on how they get here. And we have a little box that we give them with little goodies inside it to help them feel welcome. And I have a teacher who is in love with that idea, and she is phenomenal. And she does a way better job than I ever could of getting all that stuff together. She makes this cute little welcome to KMS little thing that goes on the front of the box, and it's just awesome. So I've pushed that onto her. She has taken that gladly because it's something that she's good at. And then there have been a number of other little things that when I, as the principal, don't have to know all the details about those, then that is something that can actually grow and become much bigger than I could ever make it. So that doesn't really have anything to do with anybody that I talk to, but that is definitely something that I've learned. And we hear that all the time, and it oftentimes takes us learning it in this way to know it and to really internalize it. The second big thing that I've taken away is that I've developed a lot of relationships over the years through Twitter, through Voxer, through just reading people's blogs, commenting and writing my own, which I haven't done much of recently. And what I have learned from that is that those relationships matter and are real, and our relationships with others are so vital to the work that we do. So I needed to have a relationship with these people before I started asking them to be part of the summit for the most part. And once the ball kind of got rolling, then people who I didn't have a relationship with, I was able to ask them and they agreed to be part of it because of what I had already done. They saw that I had credibility, that I was bringing all these different people together. So July 3rd is when I published the website, transformativeleadershipsummit.com, and people could see who was on the list. And most everybody had confirmed that they were going to do it. Once I published that and people saw, then I started getting more people who were willing to be part of it before they were part of it. So they had an opportunity to see that I had some credibility. But those relationships in the beginning, they were very important. And for example, Glenn Robbins was one of the first people that I interviewed, and he was a yes early on that said, yeah, let's make it happen. I'm totally on board. How can I help? And because I had that relationship already, I was able to get a little more confidence and start asking more people and feel good about it. And it takes time, and the relationships that you have, if you're on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever, they are real, even though we often discredit them because they are online only. So relationships would be the second thing. And the third big takeaway that I'm taking back to my work, really, I'm pretty sure that just about everybody said something about how important culture is. And we talk about culture in these, big grandiose terms that are super hard to define, and what does culture really mean? And, at the Model Schools Conference, Bill Daggett talks about culture trumps strategy, and that is so true. We can have the best laid plans, but if we don't have the right culture in our building, then we can't really, make anything go the way that we want it to. So we need to make sure that we do have the right culture and we do have a good feeling in our building. And for me personally, I believe the way that we do that is through communicating with others. And Jennifer Abrams talked about communicating with hard conversations and how we need to avoid the saliva moment, which I'd never heard before, but I thought that was a really good way of looking at it. But that communication needs to happen. We need to have hard conversations, but we need to respect each other enough to say, I'm still honoring you no matter what. And I still care about you and I want you to be successful, but I'm going to draw the line and I'm going to do it in a clear way as a benefit to you. So that communication of having hard conversations, of hearing from teachers, of listening to teachers, listening to students, those are all just really important. And then the fourth thing is taking care of yourself as the leader. And we need to do that, and that is very important. We need to take care of our own professional development. We can't rely on other people to tell us what we're going to learn, and we need to go out and learn the things that we need to learn and not be afraid of that. And if we leave it up to somebody else, how many times do we sit in meetings or professional development and we're like, this is a total waste of time? And the reality is that happens all too often. And we need to start saying, I'm done wasting my time. I'm going to do something better with my time. And I hope that the way that I set up the summit so that people could come and take what they needed, and then if they wanted everything, they could get it. I believe that is a way to set it up so that people can really get the most benefit from it. And if I can do that, then I believe that people will be able to be more in control. People will feel more confident in what they're doing. People will lead better schools because they're taking control of their own learning. And so there's just a few things. Now, I can go on and on because I learned so much from this, but I would say those are some of the big things there.
I really appreciate that you said shared ownership. That was great. and then taking charge of our own learning. That has been my biggest aha.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can do that for you. You need to take care of that yourself. So that's why I'm here every week.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that and know that that is powerful for me. And that encourages me to really make sure that this is valuable for you, because I know that it can be very powerful.
Right. Just for instance, you helped me get connected to the person I needed to share my story on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's been such a delight for me. And even though I haven't been able to dive into the feedback that she gave me yet, it's there for me when I'm done with my place I'm at now, so I can move forward and really start to impact our school culture, because culture trumps strategy. You're right.
Yep.
So that's my thinking. That was my takeaway. So what am I going to do to take care of that culture?
Mm-hmm.
That's a priority. So you're helping me professionally reach out to people that I may or may not have knowledge of or an understanding of their work. And that's been impactful for my own practice.
Well, what's awesome to me is that when you started talking last week about listening to Melissa Emler and wanting to learn from her, I have talked to her numerous times and had many conversations with her, and I respect her a great deal. And I also listened to that Principal podcast where she talked about the Facebook page. And I was like, that's awesome. That's exactly what we need. And there was, as soon as we finished the mastermind, the first thing I did was create that group chat with us on Voxer and then reach out and connect you guys, because I had that connection and you needed that connection. And because of the generosity that I've learned from all these people, I knew that that was the best thing that I could do, was to connect you two, because she's an expert and you need an expert. And I knew that she would help you out. So what's cool is that this Saturday, for the all access pass holders for the summit, she's doing a Facebook audit and walking through somebody who hasn't thought at all about how to do their Facebook page and has just been like posting whenever, whatever. And she's going to do an audit to help figure out what that looks like. And then that's going to be recorded and available for the all access pass holders so that they can sit down and watch that and see all the things that she's doing and how they can figure that out and make it more impactful. I mean, you having that question inspired more awesome things to happen. And now we're going to get a whole thing that Melissa has said, I've been wanting to do this for a long time and I just haven't ever sat down to do it. And I said, well, now's your chance. Come do this with me and let's make it happen. And that's awesome. That's the power of these connections and right. Being able to talk to each other in this powerful way. So I just think that it's so cool. And I just love being able to connect with people like that.
Is she going to use your Facebook page, your school Facebook page?
Yeah, because I haven't even thought about it like you have. And so I've known that it's something that I could probably do better, but I just haven't done it yet. So the other thing is I'm going to have some social media interns this year, and some of these 7th or 8th graders that are like always on social media, they're going to start looking at that stuff. And I'm really excited about that. So that'll be a cool opportunity for me to show what it can look like. And then I'll be able to give updates later and say, this is what our Facebook page is doing now. And I just think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, we started our conversation about talking about how what we do impacts kids. Just imagine that opportunity that you're going to give to a couple of kids to be in charge of your social media. I mean, they're going to remember that forever.
Yeah.
We're going to have a living document of what they did, and I can do this.
Yeah.
And it's going to call transition over into their high school, college, and career. I mean, that's our ultimate goal, right? So I'm totally jealous you have help, because it's just me. It's just me at our site, and I've got to find a person to give up some of that responsibility to.
Yeah, and I think you will. And I think as you start talking about it out loud, then you'll find people who are like, oh, you know what? I actually could do that. And I believe you've got someone there, Kimberly. And
I know. I got just want to find them.
Yeah, and they're just afraid that you would frown upon that kind of interest And once they know that you're on board, they'll be like, I'll do that, please. Thank you. And
yeah, we have a group of parents, Kimberly, that kind of came out of the woodwork and run our Facebook page. We do a weekly newsletter to our parents, and they're the communication arm of our school site council. And, kind of like you, I was like, man, it's just me. I don't have anybody to really help out with this. And just in some conversations with some parents that I knew that were very active in social media, found a whole group of people. And now I don't even touch our Facebook page. I'm always like, wow, I'm so happy that they've already communicated that stuff, because I had totally forgot.
Well, my biggest takeaway is that Facebook should tell your story and not your agenda, and not your calendar. And so we have some special stories to share, and I really want to make sure that my families are aware of those little moments.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a particular moment or interview or that stands out from the summit?
I think there are a couple. The first one that I would say stands out is the interview with Liz Wiseman, because she articulated something that I have been pondering for years. Since I was 16, actually, is when I first started thinking about it. And as you know, I'm a spiritual person, and I have a belief that I am a child of God and that he loves me and that I can be like him in the future and I can become perfect eventually. And one of the things that I've always struggled with is that in church, we also learned that we should be humble. And I'm not very good at being humble, and my dad called me Jethro-centric when I was a kid, and didn't know what that meant. And so I looked it up, and I looked up heliocentric, and I said, that means that the sun is the center of the universe. And he said, yeah. And so I said, so that means that I'm the center of the universe. And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, that's right, Dad. And he said, you just don't get it, kid. You're not the center of the universe. But I believe that we all have so much potential, and we need to have confidence that we can do these difficult things and be successful in our lives. And Liz Wiseman called that high self-confidence and low situational confidence. And what she meant by that was, you need to know that you can lead your organization. You need to know that you can do the things that need to be done. But you need to be humble enough to say, I don't know everything, and I don't know everything in this space. So when it is time for me to start leading, I'm going to be confident that we can do the work at hand, but I'm going to be humble enough to say, I don't know exactly how to do it or how it's going to work here. And even if you've been a principal in another school, you can't just take all of that information to the new place and automatically implement it. You have to take what you can and grow from there. So that one was very powerful to me. I think another one that really stands out specifically, gosh, there were so many, so it's hard to narrow down to just one. And that was part of the fun of doing this. So I think the one that was probably most fascinating, considering where I'm at right now, was the interview with Kendra Washington Bass. And Kendra is, as far as I know, not on social media. She'll probably never hear this or know that it even exists, but she is a workhorse who's doing awesome things, training nearly 500 people in her district, huge district, and 500 principals. They have 150 principals and 450 assistant principals or some, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but a lot of people. And so she's like this workhorse who's training all of these people on how to be good principals. And she's that's her full-time job. And that just sounds awesome. And she talks so much about vision and understanding the culture and all of that stuff. And that's a huge number of principals that she's training, and she's got to get them all going in the same direction. And, sometimes in a small school district like mine, we don't all see the same thing. And I can't imagine in a district that big, how many different opinions there are about what should happen. And she also talked about her superintendent, who has been the superintendent for 28 years. And my superintendent is on his 9th year, and he's been here a long time. But that guy's been the superintendent for 28 years, and that is a whole entire career just being the superintendent. And that kind of staying power is really impressive. And the processes that they have in place as a district and the things that they do to support and grow leaders. And I asked her if they hire anybody outside of the district, because I figured with that many positions, they'd have to. And the reality is, no, they don't. They grow all their own leadership within the district. And you can't get a head principal job without being in the district for a couple of years first. And to have that kind of a process in place, that is just inspiring. It shows me that I've got a long way to go before I've reached where I want to be. And just, man, what a cool thing to be able to manage that many people and grow that many leaders every single year. And then to have the processes in place to make sure that it's successful. That one was awesome. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that one, because that one is definitely a cool one.
Oh, that's great. I also
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that was really. I don't think I've listened to that one yet. Another thing that I really enjoyed was when you and Daniel get together. You guys just feed off of each other. I think that's really. It's just fun to hear you guys talk.
Yeah,
it's fun, right? I laugh. You're entertaining, I guess.
Yes. Well, I think Daniel definitely brings that out in me, and he has been an awesome support through all of this. And he hasn't been on the last couple of webinars because he's looking to get a job down in Houston, and so he's been traveling down there. And I didn't realize how much I missed him. And we've never met in person, and we've gone a couple days without talking and just texting. And, it's not like we talk every single day, but he's definitely been an inspiration for me and someone who has helped me. So it's fascinating how these relationships grow when you're not even in the same place, and you invest in each other and support each other. And it's been awesome. He's definitely an awesome friend for sure.
Well, didn't you guys both also interview each other for your different podcasts?
Yeah, we did when we started the mastermind. And that was another thing, is we both had that idea at about the same time and started developing it independently of each other, and then started coming together a little bit once we knew that the other was doing stuff. So we interviewed each other for that, and part 1 was on his podcast and part 2 was on mine. But yeah, he's definitely a fun guy and definitely someone who's awesome to work with. I tried to get him to come up here because we had a position open up here, but it didn't happen. Oh, well.
I'll take him out to dinner in Phoenix.
Oh, well.
Kevin, my dad lives in Phoenix. I'm going to come see you one day.
There you go. Kimberly, offer stands for you too. I will take you out to dinner in Phoenix.
I know it did.
It started with Vicky Davis, but it'll just extend to anybody that Jethro can get to come to Phoenix. It'll be like his uncle. I'll take Jethro's uncle out to dinner sometime.
That will be great. My uncle would love that.
And Kevin, I wanted to let you know that your thoughts last week about Google Classrooms tweaked my interest. I don't know if I'm ready for it, but I've been watching some YouTube videos, and there was actually a chat on Boxer that I participated in. I was very vulnerable and brave and shared.
Good job.
PLN.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I just really appreciate you sharing that to have me something new to think about, because my staff is ready for that. I don't think I am yet, but I'm getting closer.
I don't think I am either, Kimberly, just to be completely honest. But I just decided to jump. I watched a really inspirational video a couple days ago, and it was like, hey, we've all made it to where we are now, and we've never fallen. And so sometimes you just have to jump. So I decided that it was going to be the best way for me to kind of keep track of everything that was going on. When I add assignments into the Google Classroom, it automatically puts it on our staff's calendar. So I was able to do some of those things and cut down on, I guess, email traffic, which I don't do a lot of anyway, but just thought of it as a great place to start. And I think we're going to continue it, which of course is challenging for me, but I'm going to just put it on my calendar. Like, okay, let's get up to date in Google Classroom. So I agree. I mean, I agree. I don't think that I'm ready for it. It's like that one more thing. But I think it takes 3 or 4 things off of my staff's plate. So I'll add one more thing if they'll benefit from that.
That's great. I'd love to see the video that you viewed. I'm looking for an inspirational video, so you have to put that on the Facebook page or send it to the Dropbox or whatever.
I will, and I'll add you to our Google Classroom. I was going to last week. I will add you to it. That way you can kind of see how simple of an idea it is. Okay. And most of the staff right now are responding privately. So if there's a particular question or a topic that interests you, I can kind of share some of their posts, but most of them are still private. And I think some of that is usage. They're not familiar with how to post publicly. And some of that is intentional. So we're going to move towards we're a very open family environment, but you'll see a lot of the questions are kind of deep and probing. And so it's not something that I think a lot of people are ready to just share openly.
That speaks a lot about your culture. That's awesome.
We have fun.
I bet you do.
Spend enough time here. You got to love it, right?
So let me just close with this. For me, what you talked about, Kevin, you weren't quite ready. You're not quite ready. I also was not quite ready for doing this, and leaping out and making it happen is worth the effort to do something you're not quite ready for. So when you get scared, don't be scared. Just make it happen. And that's my parting words about the summit. So thank you for being part of it and giving me feedback and helping me make it awesome. You guys rock.
Okay, next week.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you next week.
Hey, I really appreciate you listening to the Transformative Principal podcast today. Thank you for listening and sticking through to the end. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank those awesome educators that I have in the mastermind with me. They believe in me. I believe in them. Together, we work to make our schools better, and it is inspiring and an honor to be associated with them. One thing I failed to say in there that was pretty messed up is how much of a support they were in helping the summit actually happen. And I need to make sure I thank them because they pushed me. They made me believe that I could do it. And as I was talking about it, they were encouraging and supportive when those were my goals for the weeks. They held me accountable and made sure that I actually completed what I said I would. So thank you, Kimberly, Terry, Kevin, Margaret. You guys have been an inspiration to me. So thank you. Transformative Principal is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators by educators. Visit edupodcastnetwork.com for more great podcasts.